Just starting off here at the starboard rudder. Just taking a quick look. You can see how much growth there is. Lots of fist-sized barnacles and large barnacle clusters. And here we're looking at the starboard prop. There you can get a good visual for how much growth has accumulated on the prop over time. The majority of the surface was covered in large barnacles. And so here we're looking at the strut, and we can see those collars. This is the forward collar that's streamlining the shaft to the strut. And we'll take a closer look here at the prop itself. There you can just see whole growth conditions, and we're looking at the strut supports here. See how much growth there is there. Lots of large barnacle clusters and anemones. This is just aft of the strut tube. This is the collar that we're taking a closer look at here. That's referred to in the report. And as we scrape away some of this corrosion, it appears that it was not painted, and it may have been used as a line cutter in the past. It may have had some little fin blades there welded on those tabs. And so here's a look at that forward collar there. So moving up here, we're looking at the shaft. The shafts appeared to be wrapped in a reinforced fiberglass. There were a couple small areas we can get a peek at the shafts, and that's what appeared to be layering them. This is just typical hull growth conditions. The majority of the hull was about in this condition right here. Lots of anemones and spotty barnacle growth. Whatever barnacles were there, they were in large clusters or fist-sized barnacles that have been there for a long time. As you can see, there is some spotty minor barnacle growth, which comes off pretty easily. And paint condition is actually overall in pretty good shape. Appeared to be a nice smooth hull, no major defects. This is on the starboard side. Just taking a quick look at the auxiliary intake screen. It is about 7 feet down from the water line, and so we just cleaned it off there real quick just to try and get a peek behind it, but view was obstructed by growth. And so now on the underside of the hull, on the starboard side, we're looking at the sea chest intake, at least one of the gratings. So this one is about 4 feet by 2 feet in diameter, and we'll scrape off a couple sections here and then stick the GoPro in and take a closer look. So as you can kind of see as we light everything up, you can see a couple white spots. Those are just white plume anemones that are back behind there. But besides that, there's very little growth. You can actually see the hole itself that penetrates the hole, and doesn't appear to be any growth in there. You can see lots of paint, definitely more paint than growth. And so moving on, we're looking at the starboard rolling chock. The top layer of these barnacles tended to pop off, and the base is going to have to be scraped or chipped. But there's a look at the rolling chocks. Those are subject to excessive growth, and there's some of that light hard growth that I'm talking about. That stuff just sweeps right off. This is up towards the bow. We're looking at the 1 foot by 2 foot, what appears to be possibly a patch that has been welded on, maybe during haul out or for a repair that was made in the past. And you can just see some of the rust there on the welds. Nothing too concerned there, but there is some surface rust. And then we could just see typical barnacle growth there on the bow. And we'll just take a peek here above the waterline to give you a reference of where this is located. Moving on here, we're just looking at typical barnacle growth at the bow. You can see how thick the coverage is. It's probably 8 inches thick worth of growth and majority coverage, near 100% there. And this is the port side rolling chock, so we're working our way down back to the aft now. And so we can see there's significantly more growth on the port side, which exposed to more sunlight and currents is going to be expected. There's a quick look at that grading. That one doesn't look to be in too bad a shape. That one looks to be pretty clean, free and clear. There's a little bit of rust on it, but that's to be expected. And so just working our way down the port hole here. We're popping off a couple of these barnacle clusters, and as you can see on the footprint where the main barnacle or barnacles are attached, there's just a slight bit of surface corrosion behind that paint. Nothing to really be concerned about. Minor pitting, no major corrosion was found there. And so this also serves as an example of what the growth conditions are like on the sides of the hull, just below the water line and before we start going below those rolling chocks. On the underside of the hull there's a little less growth, but on the sides there's significantly more. And so here we're looking at the stern tube. View overall is just obstructed by growth, but we can see the stern tube there, and then the shaft. And again, it appears that the shafts are wrapped in some kind of reinforced fiberglass protective covering. There was no stainless or any steel, bare metal that was exposed. And there we can see growth coverage. And here we're looking at the collar that's just forward of that strut tube. You'd see a little bit of rust and corrosion there. It's hard to tell behind that growth, but there's some corrosion there. And same with the collar that's just aft of that strut tube. And so here we're just looking at the port prop. You'd see there's significantly more growth on this prop. There was still a lot on the starboard prop, but this one's got significantly more, 100% growth coverage. And so here's another look at the prop. And we'll go behind here and then take a quick look at the strut supports. There's the top support, and here's a quick look at the skeg. And so we can see the growth coverage there on that strut, and we'll go down and look at the lower support. And there's the lower support. On both struts, the lower supports had significantly more growth and were pretty much in this condition right here. And so here we're just looking at the port rudder. You can see the growth coverage there.